That'd be
Uh,
fantastic.
yeah. Oh, welcome. We are live. I'm just red here because I hope that doesn't come to fruition there, Brian. But we are live. This is the Real and Raw Show, and I'm Lynn Serrano.
And I'm Brian. And you should have, everybody, now that we're live, you should have heard like the 15 seconds before we went live. It was pretty great.
It was. Okay, we'll be right back after this. Welcome back, everybody. I just love it because, Brian's always under the radar with me because he's always just so busy. His schedule's so cramped. So sometimes we only have like seconds to talk before the show. And
Yeah.
we'll just keep talking and we'll just,
And it
hit
and
play.
it and it's so fun because I always can get a reaction out of Lynn being with somebody in the future and talking about money to get out of jail and maybe raising a fund of some kind. So Lynn and her
Oh,
friend
don't, yeah,
Debbie's
yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah. You're giving it, you're being
get
real.
out of jail fund.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and then we were also talking because here soon we're gonna have a extra host that's
yeah.
gonna be coming on our show soon, and we're excited about that. That's in our wheelhouse. So
Yeah.
that's and
Improv, comedy,
yeah,
just
yeah.
wrote a new
Well,
book.
what
Yeah.
Lynn's all about, limitless edutainment at its best. And so
Edutainment.
edutainment, yes. All about
Excellent.
edutainment. And
Excellent.
speaking of edutainment, today's topic, you know, customer experience. So I brought up a topic, and then Brian goes, "How about this?" But there's like a two parts to this, I think, because the first we could talk customer experience. We can talk about our own experiences being a customer first,
Right. Yeah.
and then maybe next week we could talk about our customer experience with our customers. I don't know.
Sure. I mean,
It's
I just after surrounding myself with the likes of like Shep Hyken and Joey Coleman and Dan Gingiss and studying, but then also go just in Scott McCain. I can't forget about Scott McCain. Is looking at it not only as a consumer but also though as a business owner, and then having the psychology background, is that everything is about experiences these days.
mm-hmm.
And I think that it's a buzzword to many people, and how I say that is because they use the term so loosely. But an experience is something that you define, number one. Number two is like if you've got a theater background, you look at it entirely different, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't, like, I'll give you an example. When I think of customer experience, and it can be the littlest things,
Yeah.
right? When you take, to me, customer experience is the whole thing, right?
Right.
It's how you feel. It's the moment that it's the it's the report card you're giving moment by moment, and then overall at the end. And I look at like a restaurant where you're at a restaurant and maybe the food is subpar, but the staff is amazing. They make you feel comfortable. They get everything right. You're more than likely willing to go back to that place because the whole experience, you know what you're going to get, if not exceeds, and then if they get a new chef or they get some new menu items, it's going to be better than you thought. But
Mm.
the reason why I think of that example in anticipation of the show is because it's not one thing. Now, granted, if you go to a restaurant, you're like, oh, the food, hopefully the food's great. But what if the food might be great, but what if the service and the drinks are not very good?
Yeah.
So it's the whole thing.
And the company you're with too,
Correct.
I
Right.
mean, because like we had my daughter's her birthday get together, and I wasn't impressed with this place. I
Mm.
was like, she didn't take my order right. And of course, my kids, they've been in the service industry, so they're always like, Mom, don't bitch. Just don't do it. It's
Right.
blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, okay. So I
Right.
don't bitch when I go out with my kids. But I had asked for like mac and cheese with lobster.
Mhm.
And I mean, I thought this was because there's another place in town that has mac and cheese, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is like cheesecake to me. Like it's so rich, but it's so good, and you just savor it. So I was like, I think I had my expectations too high there.
Yeah.
But when the plate came, I kid you not, I kept saying, I think they gave me mac and cheese with lobster sauce because
Right.
there was no freaking lobster in it.
Right.
So
Yep.
all I had is this freaking white mac and cheese that was by par for the price or the atmosphere. And I
Correct.
was like so disappointed. But you know, the other thing is when you go out to have an experience, one thing that people mess up themselves that they don't take fault for is you need to prep for that. And what I mean by that is don't wait till you're hangry to pick a place that takes a while to serve you.
Correct.
Like, don't freaking do that. That's your fault. That's on you.
Yeah. The
Now, you know, so eat if you know you're gonna go out, eat a couple hours before you go or so, you know, like don't blame that as far as being an experience, you know. I mean, it's just there's so much to customer experience that a customer has to come to meet, you know. I mean, you have responsibilities there too.
I
Let's
mean,
not
we can break down this. I mean, you'll see, like, look, in my opinion, it's like, I don't, if I'm going to give somebody a gift, it's either going to be a piece of education because they have to put some skin in the game to get something out of it, meaning that they have to read the book or watch the video or whatever, or I will share an experience because those will not be forgotten, right?
right.
But it also takes people making use of the time, and they got to get there, and then they got to be a part of it, right? So there's some skin in the game, but it's like customer service. I think our society is much too advanced for customer service anymore because it's the whole experience. That's like the outcome, right? And ultimately, I mean, one of my mentors, Jeffrey Gitomer, wrote back in the late 90s, customer satisfaction is worthless, customer loyalty is priceless. And so nobody cares about customer satisfaction because that's not even attainable to most people. Customer satisfaction is that they didn't screw it up, right? Which is a very low bar to
Yeah.
maintain this day and age, right? I mean, heck, we get upset at retailers when they don't send the right stuff, or in 2 days, but I mean, we've also, as consumers, we've been really pampered, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, where
Yeah.
that becomes an expectation. But the only thing that matters is at the end of it, will they come back? Which is what Jeffrey talks about as loyalty. I'm a firm believer in that. It's like, it's either you're striving for customer loyalty or people are going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And what business wants to leave a mark with somebody that it was just okay, but it's not going to be the go-to place for, in your case, this mac and cheese with lobster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
every time that you go into a restaurant, a store, whatever, there's always an opportunity. There's always an opportunity to make a difference for
Well,
somebody and to be the go-to place where they don't check around
yeah.
anymore.
Well, it kind of cracked me up too because I was like, I hope she don't charge me for the lobster stuff. It was like $15 more.
Yeah.
And I was like, but she goes, "Oh, do you want to go for your mac and cheese?" I was like, she didn't say lobster, so the bill came, and sure enough, she didn't put lobster on there.
Yeah.
I mean, I saved money, but that wasn't the point. I
No.
was literally looking for freaking lobster. I kid you not. Like, and what got me is like she didn't even think of the upsell or oh, she's getting the more nothing, and it was just like, and she messed up my daughter's salad. She said no onions. Well, her plate came and looked like no onions. She moved the salad around, tons of onions on
Yep.
there.
Yep.
And so then my daughter put them on a plate, and the lady goes, "Oh, did they put onions in there? Oh, I told them not to." And again, it was, but this is a place. The ambiance is supposed to be nice, romantic, higher end place, and they really failed
Yeah.
in my book. But again, it was and the problem there is she didn't even write nothing down, really. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think, or she just,
Well,
but or repeat it or whatever. But again, it's the experience. I went to spend time with my daughter, and that's,
mhm,
and I left it at that. And the good thing is I just had found out I was pre-diabetic, and the good thing was like, you know what? This mac and cheese ain't worth eating. I really was looking forward to the lobster and a little mac and cheese.
right.
So I was like, no, it all
Well,
worked out.
and I love this conversation because we can split it into two parts. A great idea. This week, for those that are just joining us, it's about customer experience, but we're the customers, right? And
Hmm.
then next week we'll go into it as we're the business owner and we're
Yeah.
serving our customers. There's
Yeah.
Debbie. There's your partner in crime.
Yeah.
And when I look at it this way, it's like, is that I don't know if it was a fable or if it happened in real life, but the best example of a tip that I've ever been told, and I've shared this many times, is where this gentleman was dining alone. and he goes into this restaurant and he puts a stack of bills on the table, right? Because he wanted to prove a point not only to the server about how good they serve him, but also though that they get to, there's no guessing games about what their tip is going to be, right?
I've heard other people do this.
And the thing
I've heard
was,
this
is that
story.
it was the greatest example, because I've seen countless times when people did not get it right, and
Yep.
then they're upset when they get the slip back from the credit card
Yeah.
statement and there's no tip on there, and it's just like you missed the entire reason.
Yep.
You we're not being mean.
No.
You didn't get it right.
No,
Yeah,
sometimes I like to speak up when I'm a customer, because being a business owner myself, I can't fix, and I can't fix what I don't know I can fix.
correct.
So when I see from an owner standpoint, not knowing something, you know, I don't know. So the thing is I try to give constructive criticism to say, hey, she didn't take my order, she didn't repeat it back to make sure.
Yeah.
I mean, she could have done that.
Hmm.
Or it's the responsibility to let them know you're doing great. Thank you, but this and that. And so when a customer's not heard, that's a huge problem in an industry. And and rightfully so, they get a little upset because they get disappointed in what they get served or whatever. But like at McDonald's or any drive-through, they'll repeat your order, or they'll make you look at the order thing.
Correct.
And that allows less friction of problems, you know, and whatnot. Like I'll ask, I don't do it now because I'm being good with the diabetes stuff. But like if I don't buy soda, but when I go out, I'll have soda and I'll say no ice,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like, make sure that that's on the thing, because I hate for them to waste it and
Yeah.
redo it and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's like when you specify something and they don't do it, who do you put back? You don't get mad, but you want them to hear what you're saying. Now, mind you, they do a lot of service, and so they've got to take that in consideration. But they got to realize when somebody does an order or a special order or something, we need to pay attention to that,
Hmm.
because we want that specific person to come back. Or either that, you're saying we don't give a shit, we're going to screw it up, and don't come back because we don't care if you come back.
Well, it's like given the example of McDonald's, you have an idea what you're going to get, and if it's quicker, if it's hotter than you expect it to be, wow, you know what I mean. But the expectation has already been set. When
Right.
you have a special occasion that you went to with your daughter, and you ordered an upsell addition to the mac and cheese, it's like, okay, that's not just like somebody going out for a pizza or getting a
No.
sandwich or something. There's something special here, and
Yeah.
especially if people are intuitive or care, they're going to be like, oh wow, what's a special occasion, right?
Yeah.
Now, this also goes back to Shep Hyken, who's I got to meet him for the first time ever a couple months ago when I was in St. Louis. And what is the lifetime value of a customer?
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, is that, okay, if somebody gets it wrong, you have plenty of opportunity to get it right. And here's what I mean by that is your meal, acknowledging, that things didn't work out well, but what's the cost of getting it right? And then plus one philosophy.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do plus one without you asking for it, right? And also though, taking 100% accountability regardless if it's you, because your server is the representation of the business.
Right.
Now if the cook or the sous chef or whoever prepared that salad, if they got it wrong, that doesn't make any difference to the customer. They don't care.
Right.
They just
Well,
know that you didn't get it right.
and let's go to a different customer thing, being a customer for like services,
Mhm.
you order something specific and it doesn't come to be like, or I had a situation where wonderful Spectrum. I had internet at my dad's house in Florida under my name and everything. And it's supposed to be on vacation mode where you're paying $4.95 just to have the modem and call it good when you get down there.
Sure.
And so they only go up to 9 months or something, and then they'll restart. Well, I went the 9 months or something because of the way it worked out. And then I went ahead and paid for 2 months. And then I called back and said, hey, I want it back on vacation, blah, 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 till I get back there. okay, we'll get that going. Well, next thing you know, my dad's opening up my mail and finding out I've got like a $67 bill. And I'm like, hey, that's not what we. And so then I call back, and it's funny. The lady goes, "Oh, I see some notes here. I see that whatever." And they're like, "Yeah, but we can't fix this until your bill's fixed." I said, "Well, you need to fix the bill because I'm not paying you $67."
Right.
And she goes, "Well, that'll take 2 days." I guess it'll take 2 days. I said, "What?" I said, I'll even pay you an extra month. I said, "I'll pay you $10. I don't
Mhm.
care, but I'm
Right.
not paying the $67."
Mhm.
Well, okay. So I paid it before they actually got the receipt done. My payment got there before it, so the adjustment. And so now I'm still getting a recording. There's something wrong with your account. No, there's nothing wrong with my account.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, we do see there's special notes here and we didn't read that and something went technical." And I said, "And you need to take care of that."
Yeah,
They're like,
that's
"Yeah,
not
we
on
see the
me.
notes." But I said, "But that's not on me." I said, "So you know what?" I said, "Send me to retention. I'm canceling this."
Yep.
So then it was funny because she goes, and I explained everything to her. She goes, and she thought she was so slick. She goes, "Well, so what are you going to do for modem service when you're here?" I said, "I'm not there. That's the point. And you're charging me."
Yeah.
And because she goes, I said, "I'm canceling the whole thing." And sure enough, my dad took the modem in and I canceled it. I'm like, you ain't even getting $5 a month.
Well, and
You ruined it.
that's the same thing as there's a subscription to my name, but it's for my mom because she's not a technical person.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that, it's for some inspirational magazine she gets.
Hmm.
And they never used to have any issues, right? Because she always likes to pay by check, kind of old school, right?
Yeah.
Hey Bob, thanks for being here. And the thing about it is that she's got the from her bank statement, they pay, they got her check and all of that, but they keep sending her invoices. And the point I'm trying to make here is that customer experience could have absolutely nothing to do with what the service or product is. It
Right.
could be about, but it is a part of the whole experience. So the
Right.
magazine could be great, but
Right.
if all of the billing and all of that, it's just
Yeah.
kind of like if the food is subpar at a place, but everything else is amazing, you're still gonna go there because it's the whole experience.
Yeah, but here you are trying to give your mom a subscription. If she keeps seeing a freaking bill in your name or her name,
Yep.
she's not going to enjoy the subscription. You just
No.
canceled out, and then your good intentions. That's what I'm saying. Like good intentions, whatever,
Well
whatever.
and the thing about it is that like Scott McCain says, no matter if the customer is right or wrong, doesn't matter, they're still the customer.
Hmm.
And so understanding their concerns, but also though it could be the smallest thing that
Right.
could frame their experience as being less than ideal.
Right.
And get it right is really kind of the emphasis there.
Well, and the other thing I'm going to say as far as being a customer and customer experience, and I mean, I'm going to bite the bullet on this because I just made some plane arrangements myself, but I highly don't normally recommend using third party for any services
Right.
because when you have problems with that company, you know what they tell you? You need to go where you booked.
Yep.
And I know that because I'm in the hospitality and you get further dealing direct than you do. And the thing is though is a lot of times there's some friction because they feel like, well, you didn't come to us and now you want us to fix something that technically that person, like, I'll throw booking.com under the bus. Like they'll mess up and they won't take something, but then we got to take care of it. But we
Right.
can't take care of it for the customer because we want to, but there's that
Correct.
contract between us. So again, be careful and take your ownership and your responsibility of being a customer. But no, there's a gamble. You're playing roulette there because you got to deal with knowing that you're part at fault because you put yourself in that position.
Correct. Well,
And so,
and there's two lessons that I've learned from this guy who's no longer in my industry. He was from Scotland initially, but he had a mentor when he came over from Scotland, and the guy was a business guy. And he told him, he's like, if you can do one of two things very very well, you're going to be successful. If you can do both, even better. And those two things are, number one is make other people look good, right?
yeah,
Number two is make people's lives easier.
yeah,
Now, anything dealing with customer experience is that people go in with a need. They want to leave with a solution or an outcome or a result. They don't need all of they don't need all of the hoopla. They don't need all of the
Yeah.
backstory.
No,
They either their need is either fulfilled or it's not.
no,
And
and
it's like everything in all of these situations is you're adding complexity, you're adding friction.
mhm.
And that's absolutely the opposite of what a customer wants. That's why they go to somebody,
Right,
you
and
know?
next week we're gonna talk about, as being a business owner, but this week, as far as, ranting is being a customer, and, like, even when I go to another hotel thing, it's like, I understand, I know the logistics, you're like, I'm in," or even when I used to Uber and I'd go into, other Uber driver's vehicle and stuff, talking about there's that, the way of the customer and then the customer experience and then the company or the establishment or whatever. I mean, there's things that happen, but remember, where are the proper channels? Are you at fault because you went third party? Are you at fault because you went
Yeah,
to a restaurant hungry? Are you at fault because you chose not to talk to the company itself? Instead, you talked to a third party that they didn't print out your special explanation, and you're gonna get mad at the place because that place didn't let them know. I mean, you got to realize, let's put the fault and the blame and responsibility, on yourself first for making sure. And even if you go somewheres and they don't repeat what you're doing, I should have, hindsight's everything, but I should have gone to that waitress and said, I want the lobster in my, you know. But again, if they don't repeat something or you're
yeah,
not sure, don't leave it. Well, I said it. They know what I need. You don't know if they're still thinking about what they need to do after you're out of their face.
right.
So you need to say, okay, so you understand. And maybe it's my intuition, but sometimes I just, uh, you just know when people are not hearing you or that
Correct.
they're rushed or they're distracted.
Mhm.
And so you have the responsibility to make sure, hey, Brian, I want this with my Big Mac, or I want
Right,
this, right? You did here. And I'll even do that like at the drive-through, you pay and then you go to the next thing. I'll say, hey, wasn't looking at the monitor, but did I put no ice on there? Can you put that before I get to the next window?
right.
Like, take ownership and make sure they understand what you want. And when you know that, then you have a reason to be pissed off because they repeated it to me, and they didn't understand. Then you can say, okay, I know I did my part. But it's a
Well,
matter of communication.
and I think too, it's give people grace, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
here's the thing: is that okay? When you don't get something in 2 days, is it really life and death?
Yeah,
Is
right.
life going to go on? But also, though, look at it this way: anybody that is serving you as a customer, they're a human being too. And number two is that yes, they are the byproduct of the business that they represent, but also they'll give them grace because if they haven't been trained well,
Right.
that's their boss's problem, not
Mhm.
theirs.
Yeah.
They were just held out to dry and pretty much being embarrassed because they don't know anything else.
Yeah. And most of all, being a customer or business owner, it doesn't matter. But I think, and I say this as much as I can, I let people know that I appreciate them. I appreciate
100%.
for showing up for work.
Yep.
I'm sorry that your dog died or you just, you lost a family member, but you're
Yep.
here at work. So
Yep.
thank you for being here. But
Well,
help them to help you. I mean,
correct.
that really is like important.
I think that you, with a smile, with a friendly demeanor, and just with a joking, whether if they've had a tough day, they might
Mhm.
not respond to you right away. But if you joke around with them,
And
that's the greatest way to get them out of like screwing up or the fear of screwing up or making it right. Especially if all people have done all day is badger them and
yep.
not give them any tips, and they're working for very little.
You
That's a
remind me,
very
you the humor is good, but people, when you treat them human and you see them as a human and they do mess up and you can joke about it,
yep,
they feel so bad for one, but they feel so compelled to do anything to make it better. I went
100%.
with my 2 sisters once. We went to this place called Kahunaville in Syracuse. It's not there no longer, but we went there and they were just so busy and there were just all this stuff and they try to make it up to us. And it was so funny because then they just brought like oh, we'll bring you an appetizer and we'll bring you this, and that, which was nice. And that was, whatever. But it was so funny. They tried to do something good for all the mess ups.
Yeah.
And we sat there for a little bit and I waited because they were busy and they finally come by and I said, John, this is so nice you're making up for us. I said, I don't know. Maybe it's just the nature and the culture here, but at Kahunaville, are we supposed to be savages and eat with our fingers too? Because I just want to do this right here, and he just laughed and he's like, they just laughed because I was like, I'm just checking what the etiquette here is, and I'll go get you silverware because I think they gave us like a dessert or something really messy. It's like, so how am I supposed to eat this? Instead of saying, hey, you didn't, I've been waiting 5 minutes and I didn't get my silverware.
Correct. When
So
it's very rigid, when it's
yeah,
very serious, instead of like, okay, people are human beings. We make mistakes. We make more mistakes than what we get it right. That's what life is all about.
yeah,
And it's like the more that we can have that self-deprecating humor, the better. And
right,
if we can put it on ourselves to make them smile, it's going to make their day, because it makes them realize that, hey, they're only human beings too,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know. And so
Well,
that tipping example that I mentioned, for those that haven't heard it, it's very simply where the guy says to the server, he puts a stack of bills right next to him, and he goes to the server, is that if at any moment throughout my dining experience, that if there's something I deem that could be filled faster, or I wasn't served in the proper way, I'm going to take a dollar bill away. But at the end of my dining experience is going to be your tip.
yeah,
And I just think it's the best thing, because it's not only is it a report card, but it's also a guide. So somebody gets to learn the lessons in the moment versus,
yeah.
what they say behind the scenes, like, oh, that guy was a jerk, or he didn't tip very well, or he was a pain in the butt. And
It's all on you.
correct. Yeah.
It's all on you.
Mhm.
It really is. And that is what you know, and it's slick because that person is definitely going to get attention because they're like, shit, I can make money maybe at this table. And people, they bust their ass.
Yep.
And some people deserve to get tipped for what they do. They
Yep.
really do. And then
Well,
some people are like, they assume. It's sad when they assume or prejudge people that come in who they think are going to pay them or who's not or
yep.
whatever. And that's such a sad way to be because you should assume and not expect anything.
Well,
You know?
I love it when somebody that hasn't been trained properly, because this has actually happened, and I wrote a published article about it in a publication, is when somebody comes up and says the dining experience is lackluster, and they come up as being oblivious, like they cannot connect whatsoever, where some of the meals are unedible, the food is cold, and they're
Mhm.
just like, so how is everything? And it's like, this meal's unedible, that one's unedible, and then they walk away. Like,
Yeah.
it's a filter
Oh,
statement. They
there was
just
another high-end restaurant here, my daughter's birthday 2 years before that, and high-end, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a nice steak, this and that." My steak was awful. I told her, she goes, "How was it?" I said, "It was awful." She goes, "Well, do you want a bag? Or do you wanna carry it out?" I was
I'm
like,
not paying for this, ma'am.
I ended up paying for it, but she didn't get a tip. She did not get a tip. Well, maybe I gave her $5 when she probably should have got 20. I gave her like maybe $2 or something.
But
I
see
gave her
that
something,
but
but
see, that's right there, is that to some people, their bar of success is just where the meal's paid for, versus like, this is not going to be paid for.
yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no.
Like, and I think that that's what it's like in business too.
Yeah.
Is that and I know we're going to talk about this next week, but it's like some businesses only validation is if they get paid.
Yeah. Welcome everybody that's come on. I've
Yeah.
noticed we got a lot of late people coming on, but this week we're talking about our personal customer experience. And I think next week as business owners, we'll talk
Yeah.
about customer experience that we can deal with. But it's been awesome because we've talked about, hospitality, products and restaurants and different experiences. And bottom line is oh, there's Tammy Storm. And
Tammy's
so,
here.
it's been a great conversation to say, if people would look at it from both ends, and I think a lot of business owners, we do look at it, as at both ends and the importance. And then when you've had a bad experience, you don't want anybody else to have that experience.
Right.
And so you do better when you know better. But yeah, so it's kind of a thing like, servers don't like to hear people complain. They do the best they can. They,
Yeah.
you know, they can't help it if Ralph in the back went ahead and overcooked your steak or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
but they also don't know that you're not happy with it. But what's worse is when they know you're not happy with it and they still hope that they get the tip.
Right. Well, and when a company takes ownership of it,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like instead of like one of my pet peeves is when they can't sense it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now maybe that might be a psychological thing, or maybe I'm just, that's how intuitive I am. But it's like when they cannot sense that there's an issue, and then it's just business as usual. And then
Yeah.
and it shows the depth or lack of training when they have no abilities whatsoever without asking their boss or whatever if we can, you know, comp
Yeah.
those meals or whatever. Totally, that doesn't. Everybody should be empowered to do
Right.
what is necessary to make it right. Period.
Absolutely. And there's one other place, this restaurant. It's a kind of a hibachi here, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
name the which one, but probably a lot of people will know. But this hibachi place, it's like, and it's sad because you can see the tension. Like some of the guys that will cook back there, a bunch of people will tip them,
Yeah.
but then you have your waitress that came and got your plates and drinks. She's pissed off because the people that cooked you won't share their tips with them.
Okay.
So whereas they themselves will tip out the thing. And it's like, you know what? You gave a shitty service, so we purposely tip them really well.
Right.
It's like, get the point. But instead they're like, well, there's a reflection. It was like, I don't need to hear the backroom garbage going on. So again, it's not a good thing when you don't have a peace and harmony
Well,
in a place.
and you bring up a good point, and I know we got to get going, but this is such a great. It's an everyday conversation that all
Mhm.
of us witness as consumers, right? But I think the more intuitive we are, and it's everywhere. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like if you're checking in for a stay somewhere, if you would, my opinion is that like okay, if you have to wait more than 5 or 10 minutes to check in, you get a free gift card to the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Or you get a free bag of popcorn, or you get a free snack in the whatever, because then you feel valued.
Yeah,
Or
what's funny is when you have a place that has all this line of people and they're like, "Shit, this place must be good because everybody's here." You know how many people in line are probably thinking that? And when I went with Tammy to this one, we went to the barbecue place with, may he rest in peace, Larry, when
Mhm.
we went with him and
Larry.
Sandy. I was thinking, oh shit, this place would be real good. It wasn't as great for me as I would have thought, but I know we talked about that saying, well, this might be good because there's so many people here.
Right.
But it's just a different experience and they get overwhelmed and stuff too, and whatnot. But again, it's one customer at a time when you want to have them come back.
Well, I mean, like even a simple example, like here in Wisconsin, we've got places called Quick Trip, which is
Yeah.
a convenience
Yeah,
store.
we got those out here.
Okay. And it's a Wisconsin-based company. And anytime I go to a Quick Trip, the first time I went to a Quick Trip, a certain one, and if you waited, like let's say that the latte machine was down or whatever, they would give you a voucher, and they'd be like, "Hey, this shouldn't have happened. You waited patiently, and we thank you for it for like 10 minutes until we changed out the milk or whatever." They give you a free one.
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember that because
Yeah.
the lifetime value of a customer is more important than the time, right?
Right. Well, and that's the nice thing is the customer realizes, you know what? I was just inconvenienced right that minute,
Yep.
but I know they're going to make it up to me.
Yep.
So it's kind of like a bonus thing, because you're not pissed off. Oh shit, that ran out of coffee and it's just on me. Oh shit, I'm going to get a free coffee later.
Well,
Okay.
and then I
You
went
know.
to places where they did not do that because
Right.
it's not uniform. And I'm
And
just like,
people won't go back there. Say,
I went back, I would go there, and it's like they're missing an opportunity here.
mhm.
And don't blame it on traffic, don't blame it on whatever, just take ownership. And it's like, that's why it's not universal. You know
and
what I mean? Even
and
though
this
it's the
is the
same company, different location, but different mindset or different rules or whatever.
and that's it's funny because when people realize that if they're treated right, these people will come back. Whereas the other people are like, you know what? Let's advertise for new customers.
Right.
And that's, we'll get more into that next week, but
Oh, that's everywhere.
you
That's
know,
everywhere.
but
Anybody
it's
that's
so
ever been
messed
loyal
up.
to a service or whatever
But it's
always
messed
gets the
up
bad
because
part of the deal.
you could always take by helping and comping people and giving them the experience that they need. That will make it loyal because they'll say, you know what? Yeah, they messed up and they whatever, but I went back and they make me happy and they remember the time they messed up on me and they always treat me nice because I always treat them right and the tips are good. I mean, it's a win-win, and people you walk in, they're like, oh my gosh, this is a VIP. And I mean, it used to be like that when I go to Applebee's. It got to a point where these girls treated me so good, they knew they were gonna make $10, $20,
Yep.
and all I'm getting is a $7 salad,
Right. Yep.
and they're like, Lynn takes care of it. So I'd walk in, it's like, Lynn, let's get you a chair, blah, 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 and if I had somebody and I was paying for theirs for business wise, I double the tip. I mean, I always just took care of them. They even kept my pen, and they're like, Lynn, and I'm just saying that it's a good thing to treat people right because
Yep.
they'll take care of you even when they mess up. It's just,
Well,
you know,
and there's always an opportunity.
yeah,
Our lifestyle and our minds and the way that the world works is way too fast for these opportunities to be seen unless you slow down
yeah,
and kind of reflect on them, right?
yeah,
And we'll talk more about this next week, us as being service providers or business owners. But it's like there is always an opportunity to enhance something.
absolutely.
There's always an opportunity to simplify, remove a step, and to make it so easy for people. Because the one resource that we don't get back is our time.
Yeah.
And
So in wrapping up of us being customers and having our little bitch session here, no, and then again, it keeps us in check because, having your own business, you have to be in check. So, and we'll talk about that next week, but anything in wrapping up?
I was just gonna say integrity, right?
Yeah,
If somebody uh, I mean, there's a lot of thoughts here
right.
because it's a day-to-day conversation. It's always there for us. But what a lot of businesses don't understand, and I think that these are the businesses that are always advertising, their places are always empty, is that a customer never speaks up about what went wrong. They just never go back.
Yep.
That's why a place is always advertising. They're always cutting staff or whatever, which is an issue in itself in the world we live in today. But they don't understand. It's like eh, how how can you get a how can you justify not having people show up without looking in that maybe your food's not great, your service sucks, whatever it is, without doing the work internally that might not excite you. I'll just
Yeah.
say that.
Well, and that's why franchises have it down packed. They take all that guesswork and stuff out, for you, and then they have their uniform thing and all that stuff.
But
But
even then, though, that the location, the types
right,
of people that they
right.
hire, and even if it's a franchise and their processes are, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be followed.
No, but that's
You
what
know,
I'm saying.
yeah,
We'll get into as business owners, that next week. But
yeah,
definitely it is funny from, station to station, like you said before, the one place, the way they treat things and the way they
yeah.
handle things.
And it's the simple things, but
Yeah.
it's if you're so concerned about the money you're gonna make, you're making it about you. You're not making it about you're
Hmm.
not making it about the other person.
Yeah.
If you're fully focused on the other person, you're not thinking about yourself, and then any money that you get is going to come as a surprise because you're just taking action.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a great topic. So,
Oh yeah.
um, well, you guys have a great week. Thank you for having this conversation with me, Brian. It
Likewise.
it was awesome. I love you dearly.
Love you too.
And I'll see you guys next week. And the weekend starts tomorrow.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Bye.